Yo, 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 what is happening? It's your boy Dom here with Herb. Welcome back to Bluegrass Juice. We're excited to get this ball rolling. And before we get this ball rolling, Herb, I gotta say, man, I was a bit long-winded on our making of Bluegrass Juice, and that's okay. You know, that was like I said, that was our making. That was our brainstorming.
I was going to say, just for anybody who did listen to the making of...
We appreciate you, by the way.
But just know, like, that's obviously not a formal show. That was more of, well, first off, we hadn't even picked a name yet. Right. And we were trying out some different stuff for segments and stuff. And honestly, we didn't really even plan on making it an episode. We just kind of were recording so we could test out our new microphones and decided to just give you somewhat of a making of so that you could see maybe just a tiny bit behind the scenes and get to know how the show actually was made. So
basically the reason I brought that up is because we plan on, you know, this is obviously, we're a little biased. We plan on being a lot more, hell, they're going to be a lot better. I mean, to put it simply, you know, the making of, it was fun, and it was Herb's idea, which I think is brilliant, to give you a taste of behind the scenes, like a brainstorming thing. I didn't think about that, but I love it. So yeah, I'm excited. We're both excited. Herb, how you feeling, man? How you feeling about the how the making of Bluegrass Juice turned out?
I think the making of went well, and I mean, we finally got together and figured out a name and just kind of ran with it from there, and just excited that finally getting our first episode recorded. And
dude, I'm excited too. I had no idea that probably thus far the most difficult or challenging or time-consuming part of this whole thing was coming up with a name.
Oh yeah.
For one, I mean, many of the of our ideas were already taken. But we've settled on it. We're running with it, and we're freaking ready to go. Ready to go. Oh man, I love it. I love it. So our last talking about the making of Bluegrass Juice, we kind of ended on we mentioned Bob Lazar, and we talked about how we might want to discuss a little bit about that. And if you folks at home haven't, or at work, wherever the heck you guys are, if you all haven't heard of Bob Lazar or listened to his interview with Joe Rogan, it is unbelievable.
Yeah, if you also have Netflix, there's a Netflix documentary, Bob Lazar, flying saucers and UFOs or something along those lines.
Something like that. Which I haven't seen yet. I've heard, though, mixed reviews on the Netflix documentary. And I
will say I've watched the Netflix documentary and I've listened to the Joe Rogan podcast.
Nice.
And the Joe Rogan podcast, even though it's probably not as long, the interview goes much more in depth with it, because I feel like there was more of a story trying to be told with the Netflix,
which makes
documentary
sense.
And then Joe Rogan was, I mean, question after question after question after question,
which I think that's why he's one of the greats, if not the greatest. The man is a phenomenal interviewer, because you can tell he's 100% legitimately curious.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he doesn't have these questions written. Like, the man wants to know. Oh, and he's going to ask you whatever. I thought it was so fascinating, though. So I'm typically, I'd like to say, above average at being able to read people. And although I wasn't sitting in the same room with Bob Lazar, you know, I was listening to his voice very closely. And I watched the YouTube video so I could see his facial expressions. The man was, without a doubt, legitimately worried. And worried in the sense that he was afraid to talk about what he was talking about.
Well, that, and here's my thing. there's a lot of things in this world that I'm not going to sit here and claim that the whole Bob Lazar stuff is a conspiracy theory or anything like that. It could be, but my point is that I'm not going to say it is.
Right.
My whole point with bringing that up is there is a lot of times that you have to question things.
I agree.
But with a lot of things now there's two sides to every story.
Of course.
But with a lot of the things that were presented as evidence of that Bob Lazar's not lying, it's pretty compelling. I mean, honestly, if you want to know the most compelling thing for me is not even the information he comes up with, not even, first off, the fact that hand scanner deal that he talked about years ago and everybody said he was crazy for talking about that it was just, stupid. And then it turns out to be real. Like, that's just so outlandish that I can't imagine someone came up with that in their mind and then it turns out to be real. Like, it just seems so out of the ordinary that wouldn't be something that you could make up. But also, the most compelling thing to me is this man, he owns some science store or something now, and to have the FBI just show up with 4 or 5 truckloads of people and come in there and raid your store and your home and everything else multiple times. It's not one time.
Right.
Multiple times over the years.
They don't do that for shits and giggles.
No, they don't do that for anything. Like, I
mean,
I know it was brought up in either the Netflix documentary or on the Joe Rogan show. That's a job, like, they claimed one time that it was someone who they were looking for had bought something and they thought he might have a sales receipt for it or something like that.
Baloney.
That's maybe a 2-man show up and ask to look through your documents job.
Maybe.
Not 5 truckloads of people that are all spread out doing different jobs, searching every square inch of your building, all that. I'm not in the FBI. The closest I know anything to the FBI is my uncle used to be in it, but I don't even know that much about him being in it.
Right.
But
probably because he's good at his job.
I can tell you they wouldn't show up with that much manpower to find a receipt from somebody they were looking for.
I agree. And those 2 points that you brought up, I would say are the most compelling. I mean, your argument is 100% right. Like you said, besides all the information that he spilled out, to take a step back and look at it from that perspective is the right way to do it. Because, for instance, say the hand scanner thing, if that turns out to be completely false, he probably never is even on Joe Rogan.
No.
All his validity is gone, out the window. Am I right?
Yeah.
But the fact that it was, like you said, so outlandish and turned out to be true, that really, really, really helps his credibility.
Well, like I said, because it's so outlandish, that's not something someone would guess.
Exactly.
If somebody said they had a scanner that scanned your retina, like, that's in every sci-fi movie and all that ever made. I
agree.
That is something that can easily be guessed.
Right.
Thing that has 3 little pegs on it that you stick your hand on and a light scans the length of the bones in your finger, and that's how they identify you.
Yeah.
How in the hell, without you ever seeing one, would you ever come up with that in your mind?
Exactly. You don't.
And so for him to come up with that, not only come up with it, but then it be correct that it was used in high-level government facilities years ago,
right,
is a ton of evidence.
I agree. And one thing I will say, for those of you, I want to mention, Herb and I, we're not like some big conspiracy theorist dudes. Like,
No.
I don't buy into a lot of that insanity that we see all over the line, all over online, everywhere. I mean, TV, you name it. So, you know, I'm not trying to sell anything here. I could honestly, I mean, do I want it to be true? Sure, why not? Because I love mixing it up. I love drama. And I also want to mention, if some of you think that the government doesn't have thousands of secrets that we have no idea about, I mean, agree to disagree. But they've got, you know, they've got to have stuff that is just so far away from the public.
Well, and then there's people that always question, why would the government hide that from you? But
it's a valid
you
question.
have to understand that. Think about if someone sat you down tomorrow and showed you 100% proof that not only aliens existed, but that they've been visiting this planet for years.
The chaos.
And they're so much further ahead in technology, and this is because they're so much further in technology, whether they like us or not, they're a huge threat to our life.
Absolutely.
How do you think, regardless of anybody else knowing, how do you think you'd react?
Well, for one, you know, as much as I already have believed there's alien life, if I was told and presented like evidence and facts and scientific facts, I'd be freaking shocked. I mean, who wouldn't?
Shocked and panicked. And the problem is not
maybe a little panicked.
Dumb
right.
being panicked. The problem is millions
and
millions and millions of people,
billions,
being panicked at one time.
Exactly.
Not one at a time, somebody freaking out.
Right.
Millions, like you said, maybe billions of people all finding out at the exact same time.
Right.
That maybe one of their worst fears is reality.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
And you can't. Governments know that they cannot have that much mass chaos.
Exactly.
No military, government, no police, no nothing in the world can control a society where everyone finds out at once and everyone is panicked.
I totally agree. So to answer your question, which is probably many people's question, the question of why. Why would the government keep this, that, and the other? It's for our safety.
Oh, yeah.
It's for... And this is a whole new story. I could rant the rest of my life about disagreeing or agreeing with the government. That's not what this is about. They, took a step back and said, look, if we tell the public about this and we make this common knowledge, like you said, the chaos. Well, for one, religion, that throws a whole spin on that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the idea of evolution, the idea of the Big Bang Theory, that mixes it all, man.
Mm-hmm.
And this may ruffle a few feathers, but I firmly believe it's fear-based. It was created out of fear because it's the fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a problem with the religion? Absolutely not. I'm 100% for having faith and being able to support what you want to support and believe what you want to believe. But I do firmly believe it is fear-based because of the ultimate question: what happens when you die?
Mm-hmm.
And the ultimate answer is, I don't know, you don't know, and no one here on this earth knows.
No.
And I think if the government were to leak information like that Mr. Lazar was discussing, that really that's a big curveball.
Mm-hmm.
in the whole picture.
Yeah.
Which is, for one, why I find it so interesting and I'm so intrigued about it. I didn't grow up a sci-fi, science, not nerd, but just, I didn't grow up, I guess, caring too much about this stuff. But as I've gotten older and my interests have changed and grown and developed, stuff like this has really begun to fascinate me.
Well, I feel like the older you get, I mean, it's like that with everything in life.
Right.
I mean,
the more trivial things just become...
well, and the older you get, as a kid, you know, everything matters, you know, to a certain extent. Like,
right, our
you
little
care
league game
more
that
about,
weekend is
or
everything.
yeah, I was gonna say you care more about what's going on this weekend than you care about anything else. But
totally agree.
Whenever you get older, you know, you start realizing
the bigger picture.
You know, you have to take care of your health, and you have to, you know, you start realizing the things in life that matter more than, you know, what used to matter to you. And
That's true.
You know, and so it's questions like, you know,
the afterlife.
Yeah, and aliens and things like that.
Right.
Like those things. I mean, because it's not necessarily like, oh, I want to know, are there aliens out there? It's more, you know, it can even be something like the safety of my family and the safety of, you know, everything.
Absolutely.
So, you know, that's natural that you would later on in life start caring about.
That's just that's a part of the maturity process. You know, starting to appreciate, like I mentioned, the bigger picture, and the things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things begin to really not matter.
Oh,
you know, and heck, I mean, even in high school, you know, with my cross country and track days, like I woke up thinking about running. Thought about running all day and went to sleep thinking about running. Like, that was it. And now, just you know, just being a little bit older now, it's kind of nice to be able to take a step back and think about more worldly topics and not be so self-consumed.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man, it's just fascinating. I could rant and rave about this all day. And the fact is, I have believed in whatever you want to call them, alien life, for quite some time now. I mean, this is strictly my opinion, obviously. The universe is far too big, I think, for there not to be something else.
I think that I don't necessarily... Here's been my outlook on it. I've never necessarily believed in aliens as in the typical green... You know,
bug-eyed,
bug-eyed,
long-fingered,
big-headed thing.
Right.
But that being said, we would be crazy to think that we are literally the only thing here.
I agree.
That would be nuts for us to believe that no other planet in all the solar systems there are and everything else, that there's nothing else out there.
One of the big arguments against aliens, and I think it has some validity behind it. So, you know, throughout history, we have sent probes and different signals and different machines up into space that can take a scan and see, you know, what the heck is out there. And so far, as much as we know, we're the only evidence of life in this universe is from us.
Yeah, but the biggest problem is that your test group is too small.
Okay.
Realistically, yes, within the amount of
space we've been able
we've been able to scan.
Exactly, yeah.
There's nothing else out there.
Right.
That being said, the universe is so big and we've only had satellites in the air for a minuscule amount of time when you look at it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really been a long time, but I don't know when, like, like, I think the big one's like the Hubble telescope and stuff. But the thing with that is, I mean, how long's that been around?
Right.
And it may be, you know, to us, it's a long time because we see things in our lifetime.
Time is relative,
so,
of course.
Realistically, for us, anywhere between 100 years is a long time.
Right.
But, it's not in the
100
grand scheme
years
of
in the
things.
history
Yeah.
of everything. It's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing.
It's a blink.
I mean, we didn't even start, okay, it's 2019. We didn't start really keeping track of time until 2019 years ago.
Right?
I mean, like, realistically.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there was BC. I
Right.
get it. And we kept track of that, but not the way we do today.
Mm-hmm.
And
that is fascinating.
And the world has been around for so much longer than what we even kept track of BC time.
Right. I mean, they've done tests and, there are some numbers out there. We don't know exactly. But what we do know, it's been around for a long
If you look at it, the time that they estimated dinosaurs were around was a minuscule amount of time ago. And what was the Earth doing before then?
Right.
There could have been races and races and races and races of different forms of life that have come and gone over time that, we have no evidence of because it's literally gone so long that, I mean, like, where we think there's a reason they're called fossil fuels.
Right.
Shit turns into fuel eventually. I mean, like, or it deteriorates into nothing to where we don't even know that that's evidence of life.
It ceases to exist.
We find evidence of life because it's like bones that still exist, but...
Right. Or fossilized giant human turds that were from the Vikings. Which is true, by the way.
Realistically, there's so much that could have happened long before us.
Absolutely.
That, long story short, the amount of time we've had to scan the universe is so slim, especially when you talk about how long it takes for something like that to travel.
Right.
The distance it would have to travel, as big as the universe is. We haven't scanned a grain of sand on a giant beach that is the universe.
It's hard for my brain to wrap around the idea of infinite. It really is, and if I begin to think about the word infinite or the universe being an infinite universe, you really can't wrap your head around it.
Well, it's one of those things. Okay, it's a point you brought up just a few minutes ago. Have you ever sat down and literally tried to think about what would happen when you die?
All the time.
Okay, but
all the time.
My point is, have you ever done that and freaked out?
Many times.
Okay, because that's 100% natural. Has nothing to do with you, and you chalk it completely up to fear, and it is fear. But the reason that you freak out is all your brain. Has nothing to do with because you're truly that scared of dying. It is your brain freaks out because it literally cannot comprehend what it would be like without it existing.
Exactly.
Your brain does not have the ability to comprehend it not existing. You may think of everything just going black or whatever, but your brain cannot truly comprehend what would happen when it shuts off.
It brings up an interesting topic that I would like to discuss. So in the past, I have had the luxury of experimenting with DMT. It is it's a psychedelic. They call it the businessman trip because it's very short acting, anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. But it may seem like you are in this psychedelic trip or trance for a few hours. It's DMT is the molecule that it's released in very small amounts when we dream. It's in every living thing. It's in every blade of grass, every animal, human being, you name it. Okay, and there has been many studies and research done. And it is said to believe that all of the DMT stored in our brain is released once we die. So my experience with DMT was nothing short of magical. And it wasn't, I didn't go about this DMT experience for any type of pleasure seeking. It was more informative seeking and trying to find the answer, if you will. So my experience with it was I'm basically traveling through, like, what in my head I see is like these different galaxies, like this tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to put on, shout out to Led Zeppelin, I happened to put on Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. One of the most played songs in history, my favorite band. Anyways, I figured, what the heck? They call it the God molecule, for example. So it can be a very spiritual experience. So I figured I wanted to put that song on. That song puts me in a good place, etc., etc. So me and the band Led Zeppelin are traveling through these different galaxies. And I shit you not. This is what I felt and saw. Are traveling through these different galaxies, and Led Zeppelin, I'm on stage with them. Led Zeppelin is playing for God. And many people that I've told have asked, what did God look like? I couldn't see God. It was a feeling. It was a sense. And it was the greatest sense of peace I have ever felt in my life. It was just an understanding that, wow, God's with us. Like, everything was just, it was perfect. Everything was great. And as the DMT begins to wear off, I was literally crying tears of joy. You hear that expression all the time. That is the only time in my life I've ever done that. It was such a feeling of not euphoria, but just bliss and peace. And I came away from that experience firmly believing, like, okay, like, there is a God, and like everything's gonna be okay. Granted, that could be exactly not what happens, when you die. This is my theory, my take.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you from my personal experience. So that's kind of what I believe in. Many people believe, like you said, it could be lights out, black, boom.
Yeah.
But ever since that experience, I've definitely felt more connected and at peace.
Yeah.
And really just came away from it being a better person.
Yeah.
It's a very fascinating experience. I'm not advocating you should go out and try to experience DMT. As a wise man once told me, there's never any need to search for DMT. DMT will find you when it's the right time. And I've found that to be true. So long story short, that's kind of what I believe happens when we die. I think our brains are flushed with all the natural DMT stored in our brain, and that, I think, that's kind of what I view or anticipate the afterlife to be like. I know that's a lot, and that's...
I mean, but let's be honest, a lot of religion teaches that when you die, heaven is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And so if it is a, DMT or whatever that is released into your brain, then, okay, you turned on Led Zeppelin.
And I'm on stage with them, rocking.
And, that's what makes you happy.
Right.
And that's my point is that would make a lot of sense as far as if it's releasing all that DMT into your brain, whatever you truly like, that's what's going to be on your brain.
Okay, I like that. And I guess from the listeners, that may sound silly to think, oh, well, Dom's happiest or his heaven is rocking out with Led Zeppelin. That wasn't the part that they were just along for the ride. They were just a part of my journey. The part of the experience that I took away most was the fact that God was with me. God was with us. Couldn't see him, couldn't shake his, her, its, whatever's hand, nothing like that. It wasn't a being. It was a feeling, a sense, a presence of some sort. It was taking care of us. Honestly say that's probably the only time I've ever truly felt 100% peace.
Yeah.
With life, there's always something.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone worries about something. Even if you're on your honeymoon or wherever,
Yeah.
There's always something going on. It's fascinating. I've got goosebumps right now talking about it just because I'm so intrigued. Don't get me wrong. I want to live a long, happy, prosperous, healthy life. But I'm not afraid to die.
Yeah.
I'm almost intrigued. The thing is, when I die, I just hope I get the answers. I hope I know. If it's lights out, pitch black, I hope, that I know that's it and, everything's okay. But I just want to have the answers.
Yeah. Well, I say fortunately, but, most it's kind of unfortunate too, but I think we all eventually will find out. So
yeah, I mean, there are a lot of theories on with the scientific and technological advances that I've read an article the other day that they said the first human being to live to 1,000 years old is already alive. That blows my mind. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know if at some point you would even want to still be alive. I mean, my biggest thing is if they come up with a way that not only are you alive that long, but that maybe not that you freeze in time to where your age, you don't age at all, but that you don't age as fast. If 900 years for you is the same as somebody who's 90 today.
Okay, yeah.
Then okay. But if 900 years is that far past 90...
right.
I'm not sure if you still want to be alive.
Oh, I agree. My understanding was that I almost got the sense of it could be the idea of plugging your brain up to some type of computer type thing.
Yeah.
And that is their definition of life. I can't really say if I'm for it or against it because that hasn't happened yet, at least that I know of, and haven't experienced anything like that. But I get what you're saying, and I totally agree. To me, a lot of it's about quality of life, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is that...
Would you want to outlive all your friends and family?
Well, I mean, I think if your brain is connected to a computer program or something, then you're probably not... It's probably not the same thing. It's probably not...
You're not walking around.
Well, I'm saying, you probably wouldn't really be thinking about the fact that you are outliving your family and all that, but...
Good point.
That being said, I think it's happened already. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
I don't think anybody knows about it, but I think it's happened already. The amount of things that...
That's a good point.
That come out and people kind of find out, or at least find some evidence that shit may have been around 50 or 60 years ago.
Right.
And just that no one knew about it till now.
True. And it kind of
It wouldn't shock me if somebody's brain's already hooked up to a computer and it works. It's just a matter of they're trying to...
Do we know about it?
Do tests and everything else before they ever tell anybody about it.
And it kind of relates, goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the infamous they, whoever they is. But, the government or whoever having countless things that we have no idea about. And it's for our safety, in the grand scheme of things.
Let me put it this way. Okay, just like we talked about the main reason why the government wouldn't tell you about aliens,
right? Alien life,
existing
reactors.
And things like that is because most things we deal with, okay, is, we look at a lot of things about, okay, we live in the United States. We look at things on how it affects the United States.
Yeah.
People in France think about
Right.
how something affects France.
Right.
The difference is how something is when it affects everyone.
Yeah.
And so my question is, if there are things, and we know there are things, that affect the entire world.
Of course.
When was the last time you saw literally everyone in the entire world have a representative at some meeting? There are groups that have many representatives of many different countries, but when did you ever see every country?
Right.
And trust me, whenever it comes to these things, it takes every country.
Great.
And so my point is there is some group that we don't know about. I'm not saying it
talking about the Illuminati?
Yeah, I'm not saying it in the sense of some big conspiracy theory and there's people pulling the strings and all that, but I'm saying there is a world consulate, if you will, that is, they feed information to who needs to have information fed to them.
100% agree. And one thing I have learned over the years is most people are incredibly selfish. And I don't mean that in necessarily a bad way. I mean it like typically the most important person in your world, my world, his world, their world, her world, it's that individual person. I think that is why there are certain things kept from us, because if every selfish being then started having one major similar thought, that brings on the chaos. That brings on people rioting and just uproar.
Oh, I mean, let's be realistic first off. Selfishness is typically said, in a negative sense. Like, you're
Very
selfish.
True. Right.
That being said, it is a human instinct to be selfish.
Yep.
And there's a sense where, there's a time where you are more selfish than you need to be. But everyone's instinct is selfishness.
And there has to be a level of it.
Well, I was going to say, because if you give a shit about your life, you're selfish.
Thank you.
Because you're going to care about... Let me put it this way. Perfect example. I've been on an airplane very few times in my life.
Yeah.
There was one time that they asked me, hey, can you be in the emergency aisle or whatever, the emergency door aisle? And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, that means you have to open the emergency door, like in the event of an emergency landing. You got to open that and help people out.
There's some big shoes.
And I said, yeah, it's fine. Means I'm the first one out. Good with me.
Hey,
and they said, no, you got to stay back and help people. You don't leave till everyone else is out. And I straight up told the lady at the ticket counter, I said, if that plane goes down,
I'm out of here.
I was going to say, I'm not helping anybody.
Right.
I'm the first one out. I have no problem holding the bottom of the safety slide while other people come out.
But you're going to be out.
I'm getting out of that son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And she looked at me in dead silence for a minute and said, okay, just make sure to open the emergency door in the event of that happening. But I feel like that's a conversation that, yes, they have with me, but how many people, I'm not saying nobody, but how many people, first off, stay and would actually help everybody out?
Not many.
That's their duty to do it. And also, this is not me getting on anybody that would do that.
Right.
But how many people are doing that for an unselfish reason? Think about it for a minute on...
Oh, they want the praise.
I was going to say...
There's always something.
If you're doing it for a selfish reason...
Right.
If you're doing that, it's extremely possible that you're doing it because people are going to think you're a hero. People are going to think, oh, what a great guy or girl, that they would stay back and help everybody else out before they got out themselves.
No doubt.
I'm not saying that no one ever does anything for a selfless reason. I'm just saying in an emergency situation, the first instinct on any human's mind is going to be self-preservation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're staying in an emergency situation, maybe there's something you care about more than self-preservation.
I think you hit it right on the head, man. That's a phenomenal point. The thing is, there could be selfish reasons that people might not even be thinking about at the time, but in the back of their head, no. Like you said, well, this could be, I could maybe get some glory or get some fame.
Yeah.
And that relates to everything, anything. I mean, as tragic and as awful as it is, these mass shootings that have occurred. It's been studied and documented that a lot of those shooters look forward to making the news. Their face being even if they cowardly commit suicide afterwards, they can be at some sort of sick and twisted peace knowing that, I'll go down in history.
Oh, yeah.
People will know my name.
I was going to say, whenever they do that, they fully expect, they think they're dying like a hero almost.
Right.
They think that they're dying like with everybody knowing like how great they are that they did that. So, I mean, you could argue that most people in life, most actions that you make are for selfish reasons, whether you want to admit them or not.
Without a doubt.
And I mean but that doesn't make you a bad person.
No.
It's human instinct. Like that's the thing is that it's sold so much as a negative, and I'm not saying there's not negatives of being selfish, but
tons of positives.
It's also human instinct.
Right.
You are always going to be the most important thing in your life.
It is in our flesh and blood and soul and whatever you want to call it to live.
Yes.
And to not die. We have to eat. We have to drink. Shelter. All of that wraps into living. Continuing to live. Not die. Survival of the fittest.
Well, and my biggest thing is like, okay, as a person who has a son and has a wife, I will say that I like to believe I love them more than I love myself. And I truly believe that. That being said, we'll find out if I ever have to be put to the test to see. But
this is one of the many reasons why I love you. I love your outlook and your honesty. The fact that you told that flight attendant, you know what? If this plane goes down, I'm going to be the first one out. Most people's thought would be, oh yeah, or tell that person I'll be the last one, and then in the back of their head be like, heck no. But they wanted to sound good and wholesome and like, oh, I'll step up and do it. No, you tell it like it is, and that's who you are. I love that. You told her, no, if this plane goes down, I'm gonna be the first one out.
Yeah,
and I love that she paused and reflected and thought, you know what, this guy's right.
Well, I mean, she probably, honestly, in my opinion, and this isn't because it was me that said it, it's just my opinion, I think she thought that's probably what every person who I ever asked this question is thinking. So realistically, anybody that I ask to do this is probably going to be the first person out. Right. But legally, I have to say, you got to be the last person out.
Right.
And I mean, like, that's what I'm saying is I truly believe I love my wife and I love my son more than I care whether I live or die. So that if it ever came down to it, my life could be sacrificed if it needed to be. That being said, none of us know how. We can all say, I'd do this, I'd do that all day long, but until we're put to that test, you never know what the hell you're going to do.
That's fascinating. That's a very good point. So I've seen how you react with your son and your wife, and it is beautiful and it is wholesome. And I believe you would sacrifice your life for them because I've seen how big your heart is. I mean, I've known you, I love you like a brother. You love me like a brother. But then I think, your son and your wife, they're a part of you. they're separate from your body, but I think they are a part of you.
Well, yeah.
So, like you said, if the circumstance came up, who knows? But I really do. If I was a betting man, which sometimes I can be, I'd put my money on that you would sacrifice yourself for them, because they are you.
Yeah.
They are a piece of you, which is very, very beautiful if you think about it.
Well, and I mean, as they say, I mean, children are the future, and that's not being corny. That's being realistic. I mean, my son is what carries on after I'm gone.
Yes. He is half you.
Basically, you have to look at it as, okay, your mom and dad, they have taught you or will teach you everything, all their knowledge.
Correct.
And your deal is not only to absorb their knowledge, but also learn all your everything you're going to learn in your life,
right?
And pass that on to children or whatever,
right?
Because and that's how it gets passed down. It's my responsibility to pass all my knowledge and everything on to my son. And that's not being corny, that's just being realistic.
Absolutely.
That's how they learn things. And
it's how they learn, and it's to me, it's the definition of progression. As we can clearly see throughout human history, is a steady progression. Sure, we've had major ups and major downs, but think about it. If you were able to pass on all your wisdom and knowledge and skills and love and understanding and hate and this and that to your son, and then your son collects his own perspective on all of that, ultimately, the goal is progression. I mean, you hear it all the time. Parents say, I don't care what you be when you get older, Johnny boy, but I just want you to be happier and better than me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true for most
look
parents.
Look at it like a history book.
Yeah.
A history book tells you everything that's happened. Okay, an American history book, it tells you everything that's happened in America since it's forming. But guess what? Next year there'll be another one. And there'll be more information in it, because history keeps, keeps going.
Right.
We're making history right this second. Whether it becomes anything worth anything is, two entirely different things. But
exactly, yeah.
It is happening.
Right.
And so, and they always say, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. So, I mean, that's
very true.
That's also the thing about, like you said, you got to progress. And so not only is it your responsibility for you to teach the next generation everything you know, but it's also their responsibility to learn everything they can by their experiences, and then continue to pass it on.
My old man has told me before, Dom, don't make the same mistake I did, or I learned the hard way. I don't want you for you to have to learn that way, or anything like that. It kind of goes like what you said, and that's another thing my old man always would tell me. His favorite subject is history, and that was his, cliche as it is. If you don't learn history, like you said, you are doomed. We are doomed to repeat it. Mm-hmm. That being said, I've always kind of had this thought, like, I get what the definition of future is, but, like, there is no future. There never is or was a future. Yes, we have our past, because it's stuff that's already happened, but other than that, everything is present.
Well, and I mean, as you said, time's relative.
Yes.
Your future's not my future. My future's not your future. My past isn't your past. Everything is, they may crisscross, right? But everything's relative.
And so, my definition or understanding of time being relative is like this. So, when you're 4 years old, Christmas comes around only once every 25% of your life. Mm-hmm. Say you're 25 and you're going to live to 100, then that's every 4% of your life. And that's my understanding of relativity in relation to time. It's that as we get older, people say, oh, time is speeding up. Time isn't speeding up, but our perspective on time is speeding up. Mm-hmm. At least that's how I've always understood it, and keep in mind, I'm just a dude. So a lot of this stuff I say, it's subject to be argued, and I hope it is, I'm telling you my outlook, my perspective, my understanding. If you agree with me, that's cool. That's awesome. If you disagree, that's cool. That's awesome. Tell me why,
Yeah.
I love getting the other side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? Is that kind of how you understand time being relative, or?
Actually, I'll even ask you, I'm going to ask you another question. Because I feel like we've gotten a little deep.
We have.
And we've gotten kind of on a depressing, mode here.
Right? I know.
So,
it got dark.
We need to kind of lighten the mood just a little bit.
Right.
But, okay, let me ask you a question that I've asked several people.
Ooh, I'm excited.
And I always like to hear people's responses, but most of the time I get crickets, and nobody really can even understand exactly what I'm saying. So I'm gonna try to explain this the best I can.
Fair. Okay.
It's all about relativity.
Okay.
And hopefully even people at home, it makes you think.
Absolutely.
What do I truly think? Okay. So I've always asked questions I get math. They say, well, everything, numbers, eventually it all makes sense. Everything is built on top of one another and everything. That's not what I'm arguing. What I'm arguing is who decided 1 was 1 and 2 was 2 and all that stuff. But that has nothing to do with this. I'm just saying those are the type of questions I've always asked.
Mm-hmm.
So I know no one can see exactly what we're looking at, but okay. We're looking at a door right here, a closet door.
A double closet door. Yeah.
Okay. And we both can agree that door's white, correct?
Correct.
Okay, now, so we've always been taught colors. Think about how you were taught colors. As a kid, someone showed you a color and said, this is purple.
A sound came out of their mouth.
This is blue.
Yeah.
This is red.
Right.
Everyone has shown you things. Now, think about this for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, Dominic may have done DMT. I've never done a drug in my life that wasn't prescribed to me.
Correct.
That's not me down in drugs.
Well,
that's
alcohol is a drug.
Well, it is. You're right.
That's
but
a whole other story. Right.
But
right.
I'm saying, some people are going to think, wow, how much pot did you smoke when you were thinking about this? But I've never smoked pot.
No, Herbie's been thinking like this.
That's not me downing anybody that does drugs. That's just me saying I've never done it.
Right.
But, okay, so we both agree that's white.
Correct.
Now, what I think is purple, maybe that's what you see as white. Now, because you see that door as what I would think is purple, but when you were a kid, you're seeing it as what I see as purple.
Right.
But when you look at that, that's what you see anything that is white, that anybody told you is white. So you're looking at that and you think you've always been taught this is white, and no matter what, you always think that's white.
Right.
And so, you can pick up anything that anybody considers as white, and yeah, you're right, that's white.
Right.
But you could see it as purple.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's
Absolutely.
all relativity. We don't know exactly what someone's seeing. Right. You can replicate that. You could put cameras on people's heads and stuff, GoPros, and you can see what people are seeing and all that, but you don't truly know how your brain is processing everything, all the signals your eyes are sending, or how your eyes are working, or anything like that. So, realistically, we could all see the world differently, but because it's standardized,
and because it's relative.
Yeah. Everybody understands each other.
Right.
But we don't know that each other are seeing the world in a different way. Because, we both agree that's white, but the way you see white could be different.
I totally agree. And believe it or not, I have thought about this same exact thing before. And not many people have. Because I've tried explaining it to someone before, and they looked at me like I was trying to eat my own shoe. You know, so I get exactly, right? Like, I get exactly what you're saying.
Oh, my God.
And I think that is a unique but yet very brilliant way of describing or defining relativity. Because for something to be relative, it's unique. It's of one's own perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, it's all about how your brain is processing something, but we can't, we haven't, at least right now, there is no known, now once again, known technology to everybody that tells you you can see how a brain is thinking. They can look at what parts of the brain is getting electrical signals and all that, but they cannot hook a screen up to your brain and see exactly what you're seeing. And even if they did, it would still be a computer generated thing.
I agree.
To where it's all like the computer is reading the brain signals.
It could be a simulation, but it won't be exact.
And it won't be exact. So we realistically cannot. It's like relativity is. I mean, like they say everything's relative, but realistically, do we ever really know what relativity is?
That's a good question. So my opinion on it is, I agree, and I agree in the sense that I can never see the world the way you see it exactly, and because we have advanced and we have language, and we have many, many, many ways of communicating and describing and just explaining exactly what we see, taste, feel, hear, you know. But I can't give that to you. I can't give you my exact perspective. You can't see the world through my lens.
Well, and that's the thing is that's what I'm saying is like I don't want people to think that I'm saying like someone taught me that that's not white, that's brown. And so I see like colors different than everybody.
Turns out you're colorblind.
What I'm saying is me and him 100% agree that door's white.
Right.
But maybe our perception of what white is different. But we never would know that because we both agree that's white.
Right. So one of my good buddies, Jay Ray, I ran cross country track with him. He is colorblind, but colorblind in the sense that he can't see certain colors. I think his yellow and purple and maybe orange are really messed up. But are they? It's just very funny because, you know, we would be in the locker room and we would mess with him all the time. You know, say I had a purple shirt on, and we'd all be like, Jonathan, what color's my shirt? And he'd be like, green. And we'd be like, dude, are you being serious? He's like, I swear I see green. And everyone else in the locker room sees purple. That man sees green.
Yeah.
And it was just fascinating, intriguing, and somewhat confusing to me about that because that's his lens.
Yeah.
That's his perspective. In relation to him, my shirt was green.
Well, and I get what you're saying, but like I feel like that doesn't even is so much more understandable than what I'm asking just because like everybody else thinks it's purple. Like
right.
If everyone said that's green, then you don't know. But this kind of touches on exactly what we were talking about earlier without trying to jump back into other conversations. But we talked about that your brain can't comprehend what happens whenever it doesn't exist.
Right.
Your brain can't comprehend exactly what it thinks God would look like because it's I feel like I'd say it's probably backed up by science that your brain cannot comprehend something that it can't or hasn't seen
or felt or touched on any of your senses.
And actually, now that you say that, I'm pretty sure I've heard this before, and I could be wrong, so I don't want to state this as a fact.
I won't quote you.
But I've heard it, and I believe it's true, is that you may have dreams, and you think, I've never seen this person before in my life.
Yeah,
like, who is that? But from what I'm told, your brain cannot make up a person
that it hasn't once seen.
Yes. You have seen that person before, whether you consciously even realized it or not. Your brain has seen that person before. because your brain cannot make up somebody that it's never seen before.
I totally believe
somewhere walking down the street or whatever, things that you didn't even notice.
When you were 6 years old at Disney World, waiting in line for the urinal, and you saw a guy, that could be that guy in your dream. I agree, though. Our brain doesn't have the ability, is not capable of originating something.
Yeah.
Creating something in our heads that we have not previously seen, felt, touched, tasted, whatever, had an experience with.
You know what? I'm about to tie all these conversations together.
Oh, God. I'm nervous.
With this, okay? So, because people are going to sit there and think, like, how in the hell did we go from Bob Lazar's interview to this shit?
Right. And keep in mind, folks, we are completely sober. I mean, yeah. Are we not?
We are.
We're drinking Sprite and water.
But here we go. I'm going to tie them all together.
Let's do it.
Your brain cannot comprehend something it's never seen before, right?
Right.
So, if the whole hand scanning thing, it was so outlandish and it was so crazy.
Right.
Like, because people had never seen it. Like, they didn't have it in movies. They didn't have it in all kinds of shit. Okay? It was so crazy that no one could believe it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But if it was so crazy because it wasn't in all these things, how would his mind have even conceived it? Your mind can conceive something like a retina scanner and everything because that idea has been thrown around. You've heard it, you've seen it, you've read about it, you've done all these things. But something like that, once again, your mind can't conceive things it hasn't seen. And that's the whole thing is like, even inventions and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because that would be people's arguments, is they say, well, people have invented stuff all the time that you couldn't see.
And I've got an argument. I'll play devil's advocate once.
But, I mean, an invention is, you're always building upon something.
Exactly. Okay. It's a derivative of something.
Yeah, and like that's the thing is that you're not. I would argue that every invention has aspects of something else that came before it.
Absolutely.
And so that's the thing is you're not seeing something that doesn't exist. Just because you have an idea that no one has made yet, doesn't mean that your mind's seeing something that doesn't exist.
That's something that just
because it's building on something.
Yes. So that was going to be me, exactly playing devil's advocate. And I totally agree. We can imagine and come up with some insanely outlandish, far out, interstellar type shit. Anything, because our minds are creative and we can do that. But I agree in the sense that as outlandish and far out as whatever we think of may be, it's a derivative of something we already know exists. The building blocks.
Yeah.
So I totally agree, and that's a great point.
Well, and I mean, you'd say something like, okay, Steve Jobs, like, I mean, how amazing was it whenever he made the first iPod, because he thought he wanted to have all that music in the palm of your hand and be able to listen to it. And now,
I don't have to carry around 63 CDs and worry about them breaking.
But what else had been invented before that came?
MP3. I mean,
or let's just think about something even simpler: a Walkman.
A Walkman
that like would just hold a cassette or something like that. If you don't know what a Walkman is, you're probably not old enough to listen to the show.
Right.
My point is that like something like that. A square that you held in your hand and it had headphones hooked to it and everything else, that was already made. But his idea was you don't have to have a cassette to go in it. It's all like in a microchip digitally in a just a set standard size square and all that, or a rectangle or whatever in your music is there. But it was all built off of something that already existed, and that was built off something that already existed, and that was built.
Exactly.
And that's the point is that your mind may come up with an idea
that is 30 steps down the road, but It originated
built off something.
Its foundation is something that is true. Yes.
You know what's a mind trip?
What's that?
I was thinking about this the other day. Have you ever driven, and you'll experience this here like in a couple days because you're going on that trip to Atlanta.
Right.
You'll experience this, probably. Have you just zoned out so much while driving that all of a sudden you're like 40 miles down the road and you don't know how the hell you even got there?
All the time.
And you're literally just like, I'm so glad I'm not in a ditch right now.
All the time.
Because, like, I don't remember the past hour. Like, how you can zone out that bad.
So, yeah, it's kind of cool that you brought that up because it makes me think. So, most people have what we refer to as an autopilot. So think of it like this, the way it was explained to me. Each person has, we have two brains or two sides of us, whatever you want to call it. So we do have the ability to kind of go on an autopilot zone. And they've kind of done studies and figured this out. For instance, there was a case, I don't remember names or dates, but, look it up. I'm not pulling stuff out of my butt here. I might be, but I'm not. So with like a brain injury, a human, he had some sort of brain injury where like it was pretty serious. I think something was like lodged or stabbed into this man's brain. He lives. Not only does he live, he's fine. And not only is he fine, he develops this ability to where his vision can be separated. And I mean that by like, okay, so when you and I, thankfully, we both have our eyes. But we see one picture with two eyes. Our eyes are able to take two lenses, two scopes, two pictures, and form them into one. So this man had the ability he could look at two different things and focus on them at once. And bring in that information. Meaning that, like, okay, ahead of me, I'm looking at a bookshelf. And on that bookshelf, I have my small Bluetooth speaker. In his right eye, he could look at that Bluetooth speaker and read the letters on that Bluetooth speaker. And in his left eye, he could be looking at that statue of a buffalo I have over on this other bookshelf and study and analyze that. At the same time and bring in both waves of information and absorb them at the same time. That's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
We can't do that.
No.
We cannot do that. You can train yourself to do it. It is insanely difficult.
I think there was a guy who he said he was showing an experiment on how difficult it is to train your mind to do things. And especially to retrain your mind to do things. And like his experiment was he engineered a bike that when you turn the handlebars that would normally make you turn right, it turned the wheel left.
I've heard about
and when you turned it left, it would turn the wheel right. And it's one of those things where, like they always say, like you can't forget how to ride a bike, or it's like riding a bike. Like riding a bike, right. You just pick up on it. Yeah. But like that's realistic, that saying, because it's like your brain knows with everything you do, you turn a certain way, that's right. Turn a certain way, that's left. And so whenever you try to do it in reverse,
wow,
it's like your brain can't comprehend it. And you can train yourself to do it.
Right.
But it took this dude, like, he committed, I forget how many hours a day for, like a year. And he finally retrained his mind to where he could ride that bike. And he would take it around and he would show all these people and like let people ride it and stuff to like really get a gist of how hard it is. Right. Because you don't think it'd be that hard. Like you think you just tell yourself like, all right, if I turn this way, and it would, you just make it up for yourself. But like you can't do it
right
without really training your mind to do it. And then, but not only that, it gets even more interesting. He'll also have a normal bike with him because now that he's retrained his mind to do that, he can't ride a normal bike.
Really?
Because he can't. Your mind now thinks I got to go this way to go left, and so he will crash a normal bike and can't ride it.
That is super cool. So it's almost like the main part that he was retraining was his, like we talked about, his autopilot part.
Oh yeah.
So like if I sit there and if I focused and with all my focus to get to the end of the court and back on a bike that turns left when it should be going right, I could do it. But I couldn't do it without putting my full focus on it. If I have a normal bike, I can close my eyes and go to the court and back on a bike because that's my autopilot. So I could see where, like, for him to truly be able to master that, it would take a lot of time and a lot of training because you have to retrain your foundation. Like,
well, and it's also your training. The reason why you have to train your brain is because I know, especially even the way I described it, we even think of something like riding a bike as when you're turning left, you just pull this one. And you think, okay, how difficult is it to just tell your brain to pull the opposite way?
Yeah.
But the problem is your body is doing so many other things that you don't even realize it's doing to balance that bike.
Of course.
When you are turning and pedaling and everything else. Well, when it turns different,
you're thrown for a loop.
Your entire body is off because it's not balancing the bike properly and all that. And that's why, like, you had to completely retrain your brain because it has to literally tell everything in your body. It's not just a matter of telling your hands to turn one way or another.
Right.
It literally is changing your entire body. How your brain makes every muscle react.
To me, the most interesting part of that is the fact that when he went back on a normal bike,
he couldn't do it.
Yeah, it's like.
But I mean, it makes sense. You had to train your brain.
Makes perfect sense. And I've always said, this is a little off topic, but not really. If I'm ever lucky enough or blessed to have a child of my own, I always said I'm going to teach my child, to use. I would love for them to be ambidextrous, to be able to use their left and right, because it's something I wish I would have focused on more as a child. No fault, my parents, amazing parents. They did everything and more for me. So that's just a personal thing. I wish as a child I would have thought to, and yeah, sure, it would have helped me with sports, but I'm not even thinking sports. I'm thinking just like everyday life tasks. If I was as skilled with my left hand as I am with my right hand, that'd be scary.
Oh, yeah.
That would be scary. I am so right hand dominant that it's just...
Well, but I mean, have you even noticed, realistically, it's to the point of training your brain.
Exactly.
As much...
And we still can.
And you can, but, like, think about...
A lot longer.
Okay, you're right hand dominant. Next time you go to carry groceries in, this is the best example I can come up with. Yeah. Next time you go to carry groceries in, and I know, at least from my standpoint, I try to grab as many bags as I possibly can.
Oh, that is like one of the many main life goals.
Yeah, you grab as many bags as you possibly can and see if you can make one trip to get them all in.
You got them hanging on your neck, your whatever.
Yeah. I challenge you to pay attention to which hand
carries
more groceries.
It's your left. If I'm right-handed, it's your left because I'm grabbing them with the right and hooking them on my left.
But also, why is your brain doing that?
I'm going to open the door with my right hand.
Also, why is your brain doing that? Because you are right, but I'm saying, why is your brain doing that? Because your brain's even doing something else that you're not even thinking of.
To find the most efficient, easy way?
It's protection purposes. Think about your brain knows, and your brain is going to do the most amount of work with your right hand. I'm right-handed too. Everything I carry that's heavy is always in my left hand. Like if I'm carrying groceries in, I may have 10 bags in my left hand and 1 in my right hand.
Yeah.
And that's because, like, yes, I'm going to open the door, and yes, I'm grabbing them with my right hand and put them in my left hand.
But you need your right hand free.
Your brain is saying, I need to keep this right hand free because anything technical I'm going to do with my right hand. And also something as simple as you don't want to hurt your hand. You don't want, you don't want that arm to be tired because you're going to do the most technical things with that hand. So you're going to leave all the basically dirty work to your left hand.
that's true, dirty work. I didn't think about it like that. That's a good point. And kind of like you mentioned, even in like emergency situations, if something comes up, you want your best, your dominant, your strong hand free, accessible. Yeah. That makes sense.
Do you wipe with your right or your left?
Right, of course.
Me too.
I broke my...
Do you stand up or do you lean?
So I poop fully nude.
Mm-hmm.
And I stand up, and I have a full body mirror in my bathroom, and I bend over and look in the full body mirror. I'm a bizarre. Some people call it bizarre pooper. I find it.
That is bizarre.
It's my place.
But I mean,
of zen.
I feel like everybody does something weird. Like I made a purchase the other day that I feel like everybody at the store was looking at me.
Oh, yeah.
Goes along with this same topic. I bought a poop stool. I don't know if you even know what that is.
I gave one to my buddy Jones as a gift one time.
I tell you what, I can't enjoy a poop away from my toilet.
Really?
Now, because
really, it's that good, huh?
I mean, like it's just no poop feels as satisfying.
Wow.
As the one you get with.
And I've heard it helps so much as. It decreases the amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? You end up having to use less toilet paper because it's not as messy.
Yeah.
If you're pooping in the proper pooping method.
Mm-hmm.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, the proper pooping method is more of a squat.
Yes.
And, okay, which is why the poop stool, you put your feet on it, elevates, brings your knees up, kind of brings your knees close to your chest.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're really, and I gave this away. I call it a gift. I gave it to my buddy because I didn't want it.
Poor choice.
And he fell in love with it.
I'm telling you.
So that's the real deal, huh?
It is.
I've got to look into this.
I mean, they say it's the healthier way to poop, but I mean, like,
I believe it.
It's legitimately like, you want to know the sad thing? Want to know why I bought it? So obviously we couldn't do one. There was a day that we weren't able to record because I was sick.
Yep.
I was shitting my ever-loving brains out for like an entire weekend.
Just flooding your...
Just to the point...
Emptying everything.
Where I literally got sick because of pain. Not because of like being sick nauseous to where I had to throw up. It hurt so damn bad because I'd shit so many times that I literally started throwing up out of pain.
That's some serious stuff right
so
there.
I'm like, I gotta figure something out. So I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, I'm gonna do everything I can to help myself. So I went to the store, I bought a poop stool. That was the most strategic trip to a supermarket I've ever had in my life because I had to keep a bathroom in my line of sight at all times because I literally...
It was that bad,
my wife was at work and I had to like be able to run to the bathroom at any time because I literally could not step away from a toilet for more than like 10 to 15 minutes at a time.
Wow.
And so I had to keep a bathroom in my line of sight at all times. So if I got there, I had to have gone to the bathroom 4 or 5 times just in that grocery trip.
Are you serious?
That grocery trip took probably near an hour and a half
to get one item.
To get 5 items.
Wow. Did you please tell me you bought some Imodium?
See, here's the thing. I didn't, only because I believed that the reason that I was sick was not like a virus or something, but that it was food poisoning.
So you wanted to flush your system.
Well, and they tell you if you have food poisoning to not take anything that stops you. True. Because that's literally your body getting rid of all the bad things.
Yeah. Then you're just putting a clog on the drain of some dirty water. Yeah.
Looking at it now, the amount of time that I was in that state, I don't know that it was food poisoning. I think it may have been a virus. But at the time, I thought I was doing the right thing and not taking it.
As I always say, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, every day would be Christmas.
Exactly.
It's easy to look back. Hindsight's 20/20.
Oh yeah.
Man, I didn't know it was that bad. So you couldn't go to work like that.
Oh, I literally.
I mean, yeah.
It happened on a Thursday night going into Friday.
Okay, so you only had missed one day.
I was off Friday, and then I was sick all weekend and off Monday.
Oh wow.
I went back to work on a Tuesday. It was that bad. Actually, I went to work on that Friday. That was the scary part, is the Friday when it originally happened, I had been up since 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning sick.
I bet.
And I called them because we had some people on vacation at work and that I was supposed to be filling in for. So I called them and I was like, I'm going to be late coming in. Like, I'll make it in, but I'm going to be late.
Right.
And so I just sucked it up and went to work.
Because you are a savage.
But after a while, that was honestly whenever I started throwing up because I was in so much pain.
My goodness.
And so that's when I finally told him, like, I got to go home. And so I left and went home. And, I didn't go back till Tuesday. But.
And the thing is, like, if they know you even 10% as well as I know you, they realize, look, if you're saying you need to go home or if you're calling in, you need to go home and you're calling in.
Oh,
you are a man of, you're reliable, a man of integrity. I'm not trying to toot your own horn. I mean, there's a reason you're my best friend. I don't pick shitty best friends.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm sure they were like, oh, dude, if Herb's like, if he says he's got to go, he's got to go.
Yeah.
You know? Dang, dude, I didn't know it was that bad. Even when I was texting you, you, not that you downplayed it, but you were just like, not feeling too hot, can't make it today. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like, that's why I didn't text you till, like, closer to the time we were supposed to record, because I was hoping I was going to be better.
Right.
To where I could come, but it was,
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better now.
Me too.
Might have lost a few pounds there.
Well.
Probably most of it is water, though. The trick with that is you got to drink tons of water.
God, that was pretty much all I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't hardly eat. All I did was really drink stuff.
I bet. Yeah, dehydration is a beast and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So, to get back on, I like that you did say, so the way I go to the restroom is bizarre, but you understand it.
Yeah, I
mean,
a lot
of people give me crap for that, but that's my place of zen, and it's extremely cliche, but a lot of times it's true for me.
Well, I mean, let's not
my best thinking.
Let's not downplay it. And I mean, it's not even like the bathroom thing.
It feels
what
great.
You do is extremely freaking weird. Just so you know. That being said,
true.
We all do weird shit.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm not going to look at you and be like, you're crazy.
Right.
Because honestly, I mean, let's be honest. I tell people all the time, the people we have in psych wards that we say are crazy, they think we're crazy.
Oh, yeah.
So, just so you know, everybody thinks everybody's crazy.
Absolutely. That is
I think you're nuts,
true.
But you also think I'm nuts.
No doubt. No doubt.
Relativity.
Boom.
Your reality, you're sane, and everybody else is nuts.
Yep. And it can be a scary and it can be a beautiful thing. It's the same reason there are human beings that are in prison and incarcerated for the rest of their lives and have 100 life sentences, will never be outside of that prison, that are happy, joyous, and free.
Well, I feel like I know where you're going with this.
I don't even know if I want to go there.
Well, and it's for a whole different show.
No doubt.
We've gotten pretty deep and pretty dark in this episode. So let's
talk about a hell of a tangent.
I know. Well, we're getting to about the point where we need to wrap up. So basically that was all shit we watch on Netflix. So basically, if you haven't watched it yet, watch the Bob Lazar thing on Netflix.
I would say first, side note, I would recommend listening to Bob Lazar's interview with Joe Rogan on Joe Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, and I mean, like, obviously, if we had it our way, you watch and listen to both. But
absolutely.
That being said,
that's how we got on this whole tangent.
It's shit we watch on Netflix. Mm-hmm. So obviously, you're gonna do whatever you want, but that's just part of the segment. So, but anyway, let's finish up with, I think, honestly, probably what's gonna end up being the crowd favorite segment. And that's Urban Dictionary Word of the Week. So
I'm pumped about it because it's fun and I have no idea.
Yeah.
And I legitimately, Herb has no idea.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm opening this paper right now. I have no idea what it's going to say.
If you're new to Bluegrass Juice, Herb, you want to give them a very brief
synopsis. So basically, my wife finds something that, honestly, that is not a fat cat, as we discussed in the making of, something on Urban Dictionary that has a funny definition and probably a funny name. And me and Dom try to guess what it is, and then we actually read what the definition is once we both have guessed what we think it is.
And quick side note, based on what I know, I don't know much about, this could be anything.
Yeah.
It's something that she thinks is entertaining and it's fun for us to guess. And I like guessing, so let's hear it. Urban Dictionary segment of the week.
So I'm reading this and I'm already laughing because I have a feeling that it's going to be some sort of sexual act, and I don't even know that I want to know what it is.
My mind typically goes the sexual route anyways, so.
The word is mud falcon.
Ooh, so I like it.
Take a second to let that sink in.
I am. I'm going to give this more than a college try. I'm really going to put some thought in this. Mud falcon.
And I'm not going to look at the definition, but I'm going to go ahead and search it so that
no cheating.
I'm not cheating.
I know.
I'm just going to look up. I'm just going to go ahead and search mud falcon so we can get to the answer.
See, my problem is I have a tendency of thinking too deep into something or looking too deep into something. But it's all about riding that line, It's a fine line of you're thinking too much about it or, I think a little deeper. Mud falcon.
I'm going to guess sex act, but
I'm not going to limit myself with the sex act.
I think it's a sex act, and just because it's Urban Dictionary, it's one of those names where you just think it's probably some sort of sex act. And I'm going to guess it has something to do with anal because it says mud.
It's a very well
I'm going to say...
What do you got?
I'm going to just throw out a wild guess. I'm going to say falcon's a bird.
Right, I was thinking dirty bird.
Birds peck. So I'm going to guess it's somebody making some sort of pecking motion, maybe with their tongue out or something. No, I'm thinking face.
Okay.
Maybe with your tongue out or something. Just like tongue punching a fart box.
Ooh, nice. I like the spin you put on it.
That's what I'm
guessing
it is.
The old classic tongue punch to the fart box. Dang it, that was a good guess, Herb. You're good at this. You could be totally wrong, but your argument is good. Okay. I'm going to go a little different here. So, I break the words down. Mud, I think of dirty. What's dirty? Could be poop. Could be butthole. A little anal play. A little anal assassin. We don't know. The falcon part's really throwing me for a loop here. it's got to be a specific. I mean, there's got to be a reason it's not just bird and it's a specific type of bird. So I am going to agree that it does include some anal play, but not with the tongue. I don't know why this popped in my head. I'm thinking more of a, as they call it, a devil's three-way type deal. Two peckers flying in, flying out. So like a dip and dunk type. So like you and another male or whoever or whatever are trading in, each flying in to, as you called it, the fart box.
So you're tag teaming is what
but in and out. More of a quick, like,
oh, so it's like...
not like me, take my turn.
Jab, jab,
you're
jab,
in the corner,
jab,
jerking
jab.
the girt, right.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's out there, but I don't know. What do we got? What's the definition?
Let's see what it is.
Urban Dictionary.
I feel like we're both going to be really disappointed with what this definition is. Like, this is, I mean, like, it could be funny, especially if, like, I don't know, it hits somebody, but the definition is defecating while rock climbing, resulting in falling fecal matter. So I guess that's where the Falcon comes in, is like the poop is flying.
Wow, I
And
love
like,
it.
I guess like if there was somebody climbing below you or
Yeah.
like standing on the ground, it could be terrible and it could be even funnier. But I feel
love
like
it.
as broad as our imaginations went there, it's kind of halfway disappointing. I mean, I think it's funny.
Oh, I'm not disappointed. I think it's great. I'm glad it's not something sexual.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
it's almost too easy to go sexual these days.
I agree. Well, and I mean, like, I think that there's still some humanity in this world if it's not sexual.
There's some. And I'm disappointed in myself for going back to the old, tying everything into sex, It's easy for me to do. I think about it a lot. It's great. It's fun. Who doesn't? But I like that it's something
there's
different.
a lot of people that believe that, like, sex is the whole meaning of life, too, so...
That's very true.
I mean, like, let's be honest, you're not a terrible person.
I mean, without sex, there is no life. So,
oh, that's true too.
I don't want to talk about artificial insemination, but I'm not getting into that. Another day. So, the Urban Dictionary word of the week or phrase of the week was mud falcon. Herb and I both guessed incorrectly. We went the sexual route, and according to their website, it is when you are rock climbing and someone or something, someone's fecal matter.
Basically, you take a shit while you're rock climbing and it falls out of the bottom of your shorts and falls down on anybody or anything that could be below you.
Right.
And
did it specify? Does that thing that gets hit, does that person or
oh, I mean,
die?
It doesn't say it hits anything. It
that's
says,
just poop while you're rock climbing.
It just means that poop's flying out of you while you're rock climbing. But look, I mean, use these Urban Dictionary word of the week. I mean, like...
Get creative.
Well, not even that. I mean, realistically, think about, share it with your coworkers. Ask them what they think.
Take a poll.
I was going to say, don't tell them the definition and ask them what they think these words mean, because I feel like you're going to have some fun.
Oh, it's always a good time. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing that kind of stuff with your coworkers, get a different job.
Exactly. I think it's about time to wrap it up.
I think so too, Herb. One thing I will say, I would like to introduce into our next podcast. I've got a little something up my sleeve. It's not as secretive or maybe as... I think it's just as entertaining. I'm introducing a top 5. A top 5 segment, but it's going to be my personal top 5, and it's going to be different each week. A top 5 of... Who knows? It could be anything. But I'm going to give you my top 5, and I would like it if you agree or disagree, tell me why, and put some comments.
Sounds good.
Below.
I think that'll be another crowd favorite.
Absolutely. I'm excited for it. Got a few ready. But Herb, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah. Have fun in Atlanta.
I will. I'm looking forward to it.
See the family, and we'll talk at you later.
Absolutely. Love you. Peace.
Later.